Hello everyone, welcome to part 2 on essential tools. After listening to this lecture, you will be able to answer questions related to pipes, redirection, changing permissions, and compressing files. So you might encounter questions like where you have to change the permissions or the rights on a particular file or directory, or you have to create a compressed archive or simply an archive of any directory, or there might be a question related to redirection where the output of one of the commands has to be saved in another file. So today we are going to discuss about pipes and redirection, chmod command and the tar command. Be assured that if you are able to understand this, then you will be able to solve at least 3 questions or part of certain questions. They might not be independent questions as such, but they are going to be certainly used in a few questions directly or indirectly. So the first topic that we are going to cover today is pipes. Pipes help us to connect two processes. So if you want to send the output of one process or one of the commands as an input to another, then we need to use pipes. The symbol for pipes is the sign just above the enter key, the straight line above the enter key. So what happens is, let us suppose you want to count how many files are there in the etc directory. ls command is just going to show you the list. It doesn't give you the count. There's no option also with ls which will give us the count of the directories or files within the directory. Now we know that there's a command wc which will give us the count. So now if I use ls and pipe it to the wc command, so ls/etc and pipe it to the wc command, what happens is the output of the ls will not be shown on the screen, but it is redirected as an input to the wc command. So we'll get the output. There are 271 lines. Every single line is one entry, right? So this means that there are 271 files or subdirectories within the etc directory. Now the wc command gives us three things. First one is the number of lines, second is the number of words, and third is the number of characters. Okay, so we can do is we can use -l to be more specific. So there are 271 entries within the etc directory. Similarly, you can connect any command or any multiple commands like this. So let's take another example. So let us suppose I just want to see the first few entries of ls-l in the etc directory. Because there are lots of entries. What I want is I want to see the first 10 entries. So what I can do is I can pipe this to the head command and I see the first 10 entries of the ls-l output. So you can combine any number of commands like this. The alternate is, if you don't want to send the output to the input of another command, you might want to save the output into another file. This is very important. So this is redirection. If you want to save the output of a command into a file, then we need to use redirection. Now there are two kinds of output. One is the actual output and second output can be an error. For example, if I do ls, alright, I get an output. If I do ls and then I write a few file names, let's suppose one is this and second is abc. Now I get this output which says that abc is not an entry, so this is an error, and anaconda ks.cfg, that's a valid output. Okay, to handle the error and to handle the output, there are two different ways. So let's first focus on the output itself. Let us suppose I want to redirect the output not on the screen, but I want to save it into a file. So what I will do ls, redirection sign is this greater than sign, and then you give any name. Let's suppose out.txt. So you can see there is no output on the screen. Where is the output? It is actually saved in the out.txt file. So if you view this file, you can see the entries are there in the out.txt file. Now if we do it multiple times. Let's suppose I redirect the output of date into this. What will happen is that the original contents are overwritten. So whenever you use redirection, the original contents of the file will be overwritten. If you want to avoid this, you want to append it to the original content, use the same symbol twice. So let's rerun this command once again, but this time by using the redirection symbol twice. Now if I view the file again, so you can see now the earlier output is also there and the new output is also saved. So double redirection is used to append the output to the existing contents of the file. Now coming back to the error part, if you want to redirect the error also, then what you need to do is the same symbol, but you need to write to and then redirection. So let's do it. Let's suppose I write ls and I want to search for ABC. Now I know that there is no such file. Now I want to redirect this into only the error, not the output part, into out.txt. No output on the screen, where it is in the file out.txt, right? So once more, let's suppose I do for two entries. Now one is ABC and the other one is this. If I write only the greater than sign out.txt, so the error is on the screen whereas the output is in the file. But if I do the opposite, now I write 2 and then the greater than symbol. Now the output is on the screen whereas the file contains the error. Alright, so this is how you manage the output and the error, not on the output screen but into a file. So remember, greater than sign is for redirecting the output into a file, double greater than sign for doing the same thing in an append mode. If you use 2 and then greater than sign, then we are going to save the error into a file. Now this can be part of a small question or it can be independently also asked. Now the second part is changing the permissions on files and directories. So if I long list the permissions on out.txt, you can see that the permissions are read write for the user owner, only read for the group, and only read for others. Now if I want to change it, the command is chmod. So if you want to change the permissions, there are two ways. One is relative and another is absolute. For greater detail on this, I have a separate video. The link I will share on the screen and as well as in the description part. So in-depth understanding of this, you can watch that video. Here I am just going to give you an overview, believing that you already have some understanding of these concepts. So if I use the relative method, let's suppose I want to give all the permissions to the root user or to the user owner. What I can do is change mode u plus x on the file out.txt. So you specify the user, group or others, then you tell plus or minus whether you want to allow or deny the permissions, and then what permission you want to change. So if I list it again, so you can see that the execute permission is now granted. Similarly, if let us suppose you want to deny the read permission to others, so o minus read on the file out.txt, list the permissions again, and now you can see that the read permission is not there for others. The other simple method is using the absolute technique, in which all the permissions have a fixed number. Read has 4, write has 2, and execute we have 1. So whatever permission you want to give, you need to come up with the number for that particular user. So let us suppose for the user owner we want read write, for group we want write execute, and for others we want only execute. So what will be the number for user? Read write 4 plus 2, so that will be 6. For group write execute 2 for write, 1 for execute, so the number will be 3. For others only execute, so the number will be 1. So this means we need to write chmod 631 on the file out.txt. List the permissions again, and you can see here read write, write x and only x, read write, write x and only x for others. Now if we use chmod, we can only change the permissions that are already allocated to a file or even to a directory. So this is going to work for files as well as directories. But what if I want to change the permissions which are by default? Means whenever you create a file, so let's suppose I create another file, it will get certain permissions by default. I don't want these permissions, and I don't want to change them for every single file that I create. Similarly for directory also, whatever default permissions are there, I don't want them. So what I can do is I can use the command umask. Remember, chmod is only for existing ones. For new ones, for default ones, we need to use the umask command. The concept is same, since it is for the new directories or files that you're going to create in the future. So one thing you need to remember, you cannot give the names here. So umask, and then you need to give the same number. Let's suppose you write 531. So the interpretation is different here. Whatever number you write, that permission will not be allowed. That permission will not be allowed. So let's suppose I write 0. So 0 not allowed means 0 means what? Nothing, no permission. Okay, this means 0 means all the permissions will be there. 2 is for write. This means write is not allowed for the group. 4 is read. So read is not allowed for others. Now if I create a file and a directory, so you can see here read write for the user, write is not allowed for the group, and read is not allowed for the others. Now one thing you might observe, why execute is not there. We have not denied execute either to the user or to the group or to others. Now remember, 2 is a regular file, and regular file cannot have execute permissions by default, because it doesn't make any sense, because we cannot execute a regular file. It's not an executable file. So the system will not allow execute permission on regular files even if the umask specifies them. But for the directories, it will be normal permission. So you can see here read write x, we have allowed everything for the user owner, no write for others, sorry, group, and no read for others. So just remember, regular files are an exception where execute permission, even if it is allowed in umask, will not be there. Last topic for today is creating the compressed or archived files. So we are going to use the tar command. Now let us suppose that there are some files in your system. So we have file number 1 and file number 2. Let's write some content in both of them. So randomly you can type anything, right? Similarly for 2 also. So let's use cat to send some data into file number 2. All right. So now what I want is, I want to create an archive for file 1 and file 2. So the command is star, and to create an archive, we need to use the option C. With tar, the minus symbol is can be omitted. It works like this. C is for creating an archive. V is to list all the files or to see what is happening. F is to specify the files. So you need to write C, V, F. V you can omit. So C and F are compulsory. Then which is the target? So what's the target? Let's suppose that the target file name is cmp.tar. Then which files you want to archive? So file number 1 and file number 2. Okay, so you can see 1 and 2 are there. So this is only because you have used the V option. Otherwise this 1 and 2 will not be displayed. You do ls and you can see here cmp.tar file is created. We cannot list it like this, so ls will not work. We need to use the tar command again, but this time with tf. T is to view. So cmp.tar. So you can see that these two files are there. Now let us suppose I want to extract. I want to copy it and extract. So how I can copy? So cp. Let's suppose I copy this compare.tar into directory d1. So let's move to d1 ls. So there it is. Let's now extract. So you need to use tar x and f. X is for extract files from cmp.tar. If I do ls now, so you can see file number 1 and 2 are there. If I show you the contents of file 2, you can see these are identical. Compare it with these on the top when we created file 2. Alright. So now normally what they will ask is to create a compressed archive of any file or multiple files or a directory. So directory also it works the same. Let's suppose I want to create an archive of the etc directory. So you can write tar cvf. Where you want to create, let's suppose they say in mnt and the name is etc.tar of the etc directory. Alright, the process is complete. If I list ls/mnt, so you can see here etc.tar is created. Second part is compression. So for compression, there are 3 options that are available. If you open the manual page for tar, scroll it down. So come here to this compression options, and you can see there are 3 options: bzip2, xz and gzip. So you will use either -z, -small j or -capital J. These are the 3 compression techniques that you can use. If somehow you are not able to guess from the question which is the compression technique that you should use, then you can use -a, which will auto compress based upon the name that you give. See, every compression technique has a different compression format, so the output file will have a different extension allocated to it. So let's suppose we once again compress file 1 and 2. Let's do it again. So tar cvf. Now let's suppose I use z, okay, for the gzip compression. Now the file name has to be cmp.tar.gz, and then source is 1 and 2. ls, so you can see that. Okay, let's suppose now I don't know that z is the right option for this. So what I can do is, so let's suppose now the file name is cmp1 and I don't know what is the compression method to be used. So what you should do is use a. So based upon this .gz, it will auto compress this. ls, right. Similarly, you can use either -j, small j or capital J depending upon which compression technique has been asked. So now coming back to the questions. For the very first question, the user owner should have all the rights on the directory dir. The answer should be what? Chmod. all the permissions means 7. So chmod 7, then it doesn't matter what are the permissions for the group and others. So whatever permissions are already there, just keep them as such and give the directory name. Okay, your only focus should be on the user owner. Rest for group and others, you should not change the permissions. Create a compressed archive of etc directory. This I have shown you. Since it is compressed archive, read it very carefully whether they have used this compressed archive or create an archive. If it is archive, don't use compression. If it is compressed archive, use compression. So in this case it is GZ, so it has to be the CVFZ option, or if you don't remember Z, then simply use CVFA. Now last, copy the lines containing the word root in etc passwd file. So you need to search for all those lines. So for this you need to refer to the grep command. Simply write grep double quotes root, then the file name etc password, and copy them into a file mnt pass. So first check whether this pass file is there in mnt or not. If not, first create it. Then you use redirection. So you search for the words containing root using the grep command and then redirect it into the mnt pass file. So let me show you how this works, all the three. So what you can do is, let's suppose the directory is mkdir ls-ld-dir. So already the permissions are there, nothing to do here. Let us suppose that some permission was not there. So what I would do, chmod u plus whatever is the missing permission, let's suppose x, don't change others on d1. That's it, that's the first one. Okay, not d1 dir. Second one is to create a compressed archive. So tar cvfa, then mnt, not mnt, slash root slash com.gz for etc. I need to write here com.gz. Fine, so it is done. Third one is to search, so grep for root in etc passwd, redirect into slash mnt slash pass. Right, if you view slash mnt slash pass, right, couple of entries are there. So I hope that you will be able to solve all these questions now, and you are a step closer to clear your RHCSA certification.